All right. It is. I'm going to call the Maple Run Unified School District Board of Directors special meeting for goal setting to order at 6 p.m. on June 13th. We have new committee members today. We'll start with agenda review. We have introduction of members down in new business. Does anybody see, we have no consent agenda, so we'll just move straight into the agenda reviews. Anyone see anything on the agenda that really need to change? No. Okay, I will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can start. We don't have any visitors in the room. I don't think I see visitors online. I think everybody online is committee. So move right into new business. I guess item A is introduction of members. I'll go first. My name is Grant Henderson. I'm on the school board. It's my first term on the school board. We started off doing a, we started off with governance, and then that sort of transitioned into goals, and then we've asked we did this volunteer request, and we got new members, and so here we are. We can just go around, maybe starting with Ryer.
Sure. Ryer Erickson, he, him. I'm a member of the school board, first term as well, first year. Yeah, and I live in the city.
Christy Marcus, I'm a teacher at City School. I'm Susan Casanet Magnan. I'm on the school board. This is my second term, but I'm from Fairfield.
Hi, I'm Nicola Palczewski, and I live in St. Augustine.
James Galloway, he, him. I'm a member of the community here in St. Albans, and professionally I'm a school data analysis analyst, and I work on school improvement data.
And online, Demetrius.
Well, this is Demetrius Paul, who's on a parent with the PMD 3 kids in the Fairfield, something cool.
And Erica.
Hi, I'm Erica Dell. I am a teacher at Nelson City School.
And Joanna. Joanna, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm Joanna Rose. I'm on as Maya Rose, but it's just done with my computer. And I'm also on the school board, and I live in Fairfield. Thank you.
Okay. So, thanks to everybody that volunteered to be on the commission, on the committee here. Let's see. We don't have on here a review of officers or the elected officers. Trying to remember who besides, so I'm the chair at the moment. Do we have a vice chair? Was that you, Susan? Maybe?
No, I think we just had a chair. For
Okay.
subcommittees, we just have a chair.
So, not that I'm especially fond of being chair, but I think that maybe for the sake of, I don't know, not spending time reorganizing, unless there's any objections, I'm happy to stay this way and continue to run the meetings. If anyone wants to elect the chair, considering we now have 5 new members, that would certainly be fine and appropriate. So I'll open that up for a moment at least.
I don't have any objections.
Okay, so we'll stay organized as we are. And I guess moving on to B, review the charge of the committee. Do you have this written down somewhere?
I kind of summarize from minutes.
Yeah.
I should have introduced myself to everyone
Oh,
else. I
I'm
think
sorry.
everyone knows. That's okay. I'm Bill Kimball. I'm superintendent of schools, and I'm the staff supporting this along with Aaron, all this work. And I went back to the March 2nd and March 16th board meetings. I didn't go through the video, but I went back to that. And what I summarized is that the committee was charged to develop a process to get input from many stakeholders and create organizational goals, and really just ensure that there was input from a broad spectrum of different stakeholders. So that's what this committees do, is not, and then it's been said in the subcommittee meetings, but not in the board meetings, but I think the board's expecting this, for this committee to take that input, draft some organizational goals, get some revision input. We can talk, I drafted out a process that the board members have seen, but not the community members. And then take that back to the board for recommendation for adoption. So.
And I guess the only thing I would add to that is, when we talk about organizational goals, I believe, and this can also be something that the committee can discuss more and try to sort of flesh out a bit, but I believe that we are sort of student focused. So, kids first is kind of the approach, and that's why you have the portrait of a graduate. So when we talk about organizational goals, the idea is that we want to ultimately also be able to provide to Bill, especially, but really the organization in general, what it is about a BFA student or someone that comes through the program, I guess, regardless of where they actually, matriculate cooperatively, or leave the district. What those students should, take with them and sort of what good looks like. So that's one level of goals, and then you also have organizational goals, meaning sort of the things that the entire kind of district is working on. So that's why you have the portrait of a graduate and the sort of student focus. So let's see. How do we want to move through this?
I kind of thought maybe there'd be a little bit more context piece.
Okay, we can do that.
I know you're kind of going right down through the checklist.
Yeah, I forget that we do this.
You've been doing it for a while,
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
community
people-
members that just
We
need
have
a
new
little
people coming on board.
that kind of need a little bit more of a context. So,
Yeah.
one of the things that the boards, I put in this packet a whole bunch of pieces here. We may not use them all tonight, but I just wanted to put them in here. And Grant referenced a few of those. And for Demetrius and Erica, we're going to show you at the end of somewhere tonight. Aaron and I are going to get on and show you the interactive website where you can get all this. And we're also going to want to just make sure we poll everyone. Joanna, I think you have all this except for maybe one document from all the board work. That how you can get onto it, but at the same time, we want to know who would like paper printouts. Almost everyone on the school board does everything electronically, but tonight I just printed things out so we have them. So in this packet, you'll see the portrait of a graduate, which is a process for looking at goal. What I like to say is, what do we want students to know and be able to do when they finish their K-12 career? What is that? And so we'll go through that more. There's places there. I also am going to talk in a minute about the equity engagement work, because this work will probably, this group and I've talked with the board about community engagement for setting goals, and that's how you were charged to develop a process. But you should know about other community engagement that may inform your work. So you just need to know about that. And then at the end, and this is a little bit with seeing the end in mind, I created a paper this afternoon just of what's Maple's Run mission, which you see up on top of the wall here, and our core values. That's what was started when Maple Run was merged. And I know we had some discussions, Grant and Ryer and Susan and Joanna, but I just don't remember if we're only looking at the goals or we're looking at the mission of Maple Run. And I don't know if that has to be answered tonight, but it's just kind of a question. We've had been back and forth on that. What I wanted to do was kind of give a definition. I've seen these, I really like from this website, Clear Voice, they did a quick search on just what A vision focuses on what we want to see tomorrow, what we want to become. A mission focuses on today and what we do. And then I gave some examples from Milton, Essex Westford, and Orleans Southwest Supervisory Union of just some visions, missions, and goals. What Essex Westford calls it a theory of action, and that's a little different than a mission, but it's kind of how do we accomplish? What do we, if we do this, it'll get us to our vision. It's kind of how a theory of action works. But the idea is just to kind of see, and I didn't want to necessarily stay and look at these tonight, but just wanted to hand out all those resources. So, in that charge piece of having to talk so much about, you know, what's the process going to be to get us there? That process, and Aaron, I guess I forgot to print out I didn't print out the timeline piece, right? Is that just up on the, oh no, there it is. There it is. Thank you, sorry. I just missed it. I also in here was, this is a process that I took first to the school board back in January, because the board asked me for a process for creating goals, and then developed, so I kind of come, for the board members, this is a little bit different of a document than you've seen before. It looks like this. It says, I took the work that we did as a subcommittee along with what the school board we had done for creating goals and tried to merge it here from that work. So you can say, Bill, this is a draft. It's not the way it has to be, but I just put that there. And thinking that was all good content, just and context for all of us to have a little bit of. So when most school districts go through a goal setting, strategic planning, vision, missioning work, they're doing a lot of work with stakeholders, and it's back and forth through what's called thin engagement, which is usually like surveys, and thick engagements where you sit down around tables and have long discussions and try to figure it out. And so not to go through this whole thing, but the reason I have that and trying to get us back to the other public engagement is we also, you know, the school district has parent and student engagement that happens with the schools, either on a small parent-teacher, that's engagement, or when everyone comes to the school for that night or that day or go on that field trip. But I also wanted to let you know about the district. As many of you probably are aware of, we've been working on equity, and we had planned this past winter to have a community engagement meeting. We've hired a contractor back at the beginning of May to start doing some work in a similar type of venue, starting with small engagement and then getting to a large one. And that doesn't mean that equity can't be part of this. I just wanted people to realize there could be a couple things going on at the same time.
So let's take a look at this document that Bill just showed us, which is the draft process for creating vision, mission, goals, right? The building of ownership among the district leadership and school board, why we need to look at our vision, mission, goals. I think we've done that. I think that's why we're here. Everyone accepts that, you know, we need to provide this. We've created our goals subcommittee. That's us right here. I would say that maybe there's a little asterisk on that, in that, you know, we are responsible, we are the committee obviously, but the voice that sort of directs the committee is more like the community voice. So we're going to be responsible for engaging the public. You know, it won't just be our opinions, it will be opinions that funnel through this committee to form our vision, mission, goals. And that's how we get to number 4, that, you know, how we gain the understanding that, you know, of what the students are going to encounter, of what they need to do that, and what that success looks like according to the graphic. I skipped over timeline because I think that's something we should come back to in just a moment. And then we also have this process. I think maybe we should take a moment to talk about the process, and then maybe we can come back to the timeline. So, let's see, how do we want to do this? All the school board members, we've already brainstormed a little bit around what the process could be. The stuff we came up with were like surveys, interviews, meetings of various groups or like outreach type forums, right? So, I'd like to, I guess, open that up for further discussion. What kinds of opportunities are out there to get feedback from the community on, what they would like for, the goals and objectives of their students or the organization. So if anyone has ideas, especially new members, might be a good time to start recording some of those.
And I wonder, Grant, for folks, for the new members, just how much of this is doing an overview tonight for some time to think?
We can, I don't know, if people come in, if you
Yeah,
guys
so
have
they're
been anticipating, serving on the committee and giving us some thought, I think I probably would have done that. And so if you guys have any ideas that you come in the door with, we can absolutely take those into consideration. Or if not, we can move on to the more detailed timeline planning, that sort of thing.
One of the things I've spoken to a lot of my friends, my son is not in school yet, but he's going to next year. I know a lot of parents have complaints, so maybe we can speak to the parents directly, maybe like as a forum, or even like a parent night, where parents can come in, you can provide like the coaches can have the kids for a little bit, so parents can actually have a conversation, because it's really hard when you have young kids next to you. So we can keep the parents having discussion and being able to have a true discussion without children present. Because I know when we speak about things when our children are around, it's very different than when the children are not around. So it'd be nice if we would have a parent engagement that way.
Yeah, with some sort of
Like activity for the child and.
I was gonna say, for some sort of care for the children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can use or utilize social media in some way. I was just thinking of a school board meeting I attended, and the high schoolers were talking about their QR code that they had, where students could access that. I wonder if we had something similar, or use social media in some aspect.
Okay.
Just to piggyback off of that, what was just said, I know that colleges use either CSA or Dojo as a sharing tool for parents. And so having something that links through that with the school would be a really helpful way of getting parents to see it and engage with it really quickly.
Those are programs that the teachers use to facilitate the class, their own classrooms, right? I remember CSA.
Yeah, CSA is the app that we use primarily in preschool, from what I'm aware of. But Dojo is one that has a whole district feed you can utilize as well. I'm not sure if CSA has that option either, but just those are things that teachers can copy paste something into, parents can see it, and then you can see who's seen it. It gives you a seen by X number of parents, and that applies. So we do that timestamp, which is helpful in terms of just tracking who's it's being exposed to.
That's really good. Anything else that you guys really want to let us know about coming in the door?
I think the forums are important.
Yeah.
Not only for parents, but, the community members at large that might not necessarily be otherwise engaged in the school system.
Okay. So, I'll move on because I think we've kind of got through that a little bit. So that's the, that's kind of the how. And then we have the what, right? So we brainstormed some questions, and I think we can add to this list tonight. If people came in the door with some additions to this list, we can add them. And so the questions that we thought might be good to answer through these various forums, social media discussions, would be, when the local students are done with their education in our district, what do we want them to be able to do or not, right? That's more or less straight out of the course of the graduate. How do we measure success? What are the most important skills and experiences our students need to prepare them for success in learning and in life? How much money or resources should be spent per pupil for a successful outcome? How do we teach students the skills we want them to possess at graduation? What are some important things for us to consider when we develop our new goals? And what 4 words describe success for all Maple Run students? So we thought that if we could answer those questions, that might give us a good start, and that might be a focus for any of these outreach type programs. But if anyone else has students that questions, that might fit within that list.
I can give a little story. I had that
Yeah.
last one.
Yeah.
Because that came from Essex Westford. When they first started, they had their students go out to community fairs. It was like a local park fair. And they had the kids, they had digital camera, and they had dry erase boards. And they'd say, write 4 words that describe success and take a picture of it. And they did that with about 1,500 people and combined all that into a Wordle. And it gave them a really powerful starting point to see what that meant. And it was simple. It wasn't complex. Some of these other ones come out, we use a tool that the board members are, and you may have, as a parent, we put out every once in a while, we use Thought Exchange, that is a qualitative data tracker, so when people can free response into it, and we've used that, so some of these questions came from there as well.
So, if anyone has questions, if anyone thinks of questions throughout the night, so you're like, oh, wait, we got one. We'll add it to the list. And I don't see anybody jumping to raise anything right now, so I'll
Joanna's right there.
Oh, Joanna, yeah, what were you thinking?
Did you, great, I may have missed it, did you review the different stakeholders, maybe, just people kind of looking at the list of stakeholders might generate some ideas for questions or thoughts?
No.
And I didn't put that on
We
these
don't have it on
areas.
here right
I can get it, I just have to go run to my office because it's on that Google Doc that I was using with all.
Right. Joanna, should we, do you think we can do that next time, or do you think it's important that we go through it right now? We can probably try to remember as a subcommittee if we want to try that.
Yeah, I mean, whether we do it right now or just before people leave, I just think it's a good thing for people to be thinking about. I think it might help to generate some questions.
Okay.
Or
Let me see if I can get to it right from here.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we'll try to look that up. We'll come back to it. The thing I think yeah.
Sorry, one last thing. I don't know if you were planning on also just, if we're going to be thinking about the how, maybe linking people with different stakeholders in terms of, the next steps.
Right.
Also.
Yeah. And we can do that as we work through the timeline and the tasks that we have kind of in front of us. I'll just keep going through the process for a moment though. So we have these questions that we feel we need answered. I'm sure along the way we'll think of many others and come up with some various metrics and ways of tabulating everything. And so then at some point we'll have this presumably large body of information that we'll have to pull together and pour over and try to understand. With any luck, that I think will be the majority of our work. Will be understanding the information that we pull from the community and translating that into goals and objectives for the district.
Whenever you're ready.
You have it?
Yeah.
All right, so Bill.
Yeah, the stakeholders that we had the board, we had taxpayers, students, parents, teachers, faculty, administration, local government leaders, business leaders, post-secondary educational institutions. We had like a VSAC, CCV, UVM, VALS, so it wasn't just post-secondary. Local trade representatives, social support agencies like NCSS. So it was a pretty good list. I think it kind of encompasses a lot. I also know that I had a conversation with Tim Smith as being economic development, so they did something like this last fall, and he's willing to help pull together business leaders in the area. And they doesn't have to be the only one, it's just there are people like that willing to do it.
So, if these are our stakeholders, at some point, and this gets us to number 7 on our list, is we'll have to take all the information that we gather and that we convert it into something that we think are basically goals. And, we have to present that to somebody and get that feedback that either yes, you got it right, or no, this isn't what we were telling you. We told, we think we told you something different. And so that's, it's this sort of feedback loop of kind of refining that would also be potentially a forum or maybe a social media or something along those lines. And once we believe that we're in a good place with all of that, that's when we would draft up some official either goals or mission or whatever that turns into that can be presented to the board and to the administration. And hopefully get implemented as part of the Maple Run process. So as I mentioned, I specifically skipped over the timeline.
No, that's the timeline just from
Is that what
that's from the creative discourse group.
Oh,
I just brought it so people knew that they were kind of doing. It was a way of showing some of the similar and difference in timeline.
Okay,
go ahead.
what is the creative discourse group again, Phil?
That's the group that the board authorized to be hired to lead our equity discussions. And I think there'll be great information that comes out of there that'll influence the work here.
Okay.
And I think these discussions could happen in both places. I'm not trying to limit it, I'm just trying for this group to understand there's that kind of community work's going on in all different places.
And so for number 2, that's September to March 23.
They're gonna work with some small groups and to learn about what hopes and dreams are.
Okay.
And then from September to March, design a process, and somewhere between February and March, host a facilitated community meeting.
Now, I think we're going to try to be more aggressive than that. The goal when we set out with the subcommittee was to have something in place
November-ish,
right? So it seems like a lot. It seems like a long time in a lot of ways. Whatever that is, 5-ish months, right? But I don't know, for whatever reason, it just goes by so fast. So I think we're going to stay on top of things. We should probably, I think, plan out a couple of intermediate milestones and early objectives just to keep ourselves on track. That might be something along the lines of what Joanna was saying. If we feel that our backgrounds line up especially well with some of the stakeholder backgrounds, or if you're particularly interested in developing, one type of forum or social media platform or something like that, I think we could probably not necessarily get detailed planning for that tonight, but we could maybe try to set some loose assignments. I think if we just had that, if nothing else, having that coming out of this meeting, that would be decent progress. So we can jump into that right now if folks are interested. I'm not hearing any.
So let me just add something. Let's add a little bit of school piece that we're in right now. We all know school's ending this week, and then we get into summertime, which was kind of, I know Grant, you expressed to me, and I think actually all the board members kind of did that as we were thinking about this. And I think whatever planning we can do between now and the beginning of next school year is probably good, and thinking about really starting to kick off probably right after Labor Day, we're starting to get into groups to try either whether it's online surveys, small discussions, and really what you want to do is, the reason to brainstorm those questions is make sure that you can have different ways of gathering the information, but that the way that you're going to get that first thin piece of engagement, that you're focusing around the same question in all the different groups, and that you have that same wording. So I mean, that doesn't have to be decided on tonight.
Yeah.
But I was kind of thinking roughly when I thought about this, and I saw one district do it really fast in New Hampshire. And fast is like what we're trying to do. Like, this seems really quick, but most districts, this is a year's worth of work. And so this committee has to say whether that's doable, actually. But if we're gonna try to stay in that timeline, we'd have to think about a September timeline to collect the thin information, think about a forum in October.
Yep.
And a November work time to start drafting things, then to get feedback back on the drafts.
So, yes, I guess we could go about this in a couple different ways. We could, at each meeting until, say September, we could as a group try to plan an event or, an outreach type of program. Or, we could sort of divide and conquer. And I don't know what people's preferences are. If you have, or we can work in pairs, or, however we want to do this. Does anybody have a preference there? I see Joanna with her hand up. Susan, Joanna?
Want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so something I would just throw out there, I know that sometimes it's hard to get some work done during the summer, but at the same time, there might be, a subgroup of all of us who is willing or interested to do work during the summer. And I would say that clearly for schools, we have to wait for the fall, but for some of these other organizations, I think it might even be advantageous to do some of that work in the summer because it's a slower time for people and for myself specifically. So I would be willing to approach some stakeholders that are not in the education business over the summer, as I think that it would be a time where maybe some easier, more leisurely conversation could happen.
All right, so I'm just trying to organize all this in my mind. So it sounds like what we want to do is spend the next month or two coming up with a list of questions that we want to present to the different stakeholders. That could be done in different forums. So the same group of questions or what we want to know would be presented, maybe different to a group of business people and to a group of educators and to a group of parents. And those same questions would be put out on maybe social media and some of the apps that Erica was talking about. So it sounds like we want to figure out what we want to present to these forums. And that perhaps we don't need to wait until September to start gathering some of this information. Am I on track there?
Well, open up. Any other thoughts on organizations that match up with other people are thinking?
I think the summertime is the best time to get information from parents. They're less stressed, they're not running the kids around as much and whatnot, so I think the summer is a great time to actually engage with parents. I know city school and town school have camps for their kids, which we could be able to talk to the parents during that. And I'm assuming the high school has summer school and stuff like that, so.
A little bit, not as robust as grades.
I wonder if that's the group of stakeholders, educators and parents, that it might be better to wait until the fall and get all the other stakeholders done before then, because we can use the online platforms. And I know parents are probably looking forward to I'm speaking from my experience, are looking forward to not being involved with school and hearing from their kids' teachers. And people go on vacation in the summer too, so different perspectives, but I think we have more of an opportunity to utilize different outlets if we wait until the fall for parents and educators. And we can focus on like local businesses and things like that. Just taxpayers,
Other community members that you had listed off or list on.
So, yeah. So I think what I'm hearing between Bill, Susan, Joanna, everybody, right? We at some point we have to have some events and some actual, feedback mechanisms out there, right? Whatever it is, right? So if we're working backwards, if those are taking place, you know, the events are taking place predominantly in the summer, early fall, right? Maybe with some earlier ones, if we can pull it together, if that makes sense. And maybe social media being a little bit more ongoing, right? So the question is, what is our, what's our plan for how to schedule those and how to prepare content for those? Because I think that these things are going to be, you know, fairly well scripted, right? We'll show up, we'll have, you know, questions, we'll engage, try to gather feedback. I don't think people are going to go so that, you know, we can tell them what our vision is, right? We want to go so that they can tell us what their vision is. Right? So we're going to have to come up with ways of engaging.
So let me, I was gonna do it tonight, but I pulled it when you and I were kind of talking about the
Yeah.
agenda grant. You're like, wow, if we do all that, that's a lot accomplished.
Yeah.
There's some great pieces that I've given to the board members that are on this committee, but I wanna give to everybody for ways of just kind of thinking about what's the future of education look like. It's primers, it doesn't have to be saying that is, but there's some great little video, there's some like 10-minute videos that are out there. And so, one of them is The Adaptable Mind. It's a really good video about what does the 21st century worker need. Because if you think about it, what's really crazy, I have a daughter who's 19. So next year she'll be 20, that'll be 2023. In 2050, she'll be in the middle of her career. She'll be 42, 43 years old, right smack in the middle of her career. We have no idea what job she's majoring in architecture at Northeastern, but who knows if she's gonna stay in that? And what type of skills does she need to be successful in 2050? So that's kind of what we're thinking about. We're thinking about today, but also what do the kids need then? And so.
So if we were to get those resources,
Yep.
right? Combine that with this, I think where that leaves is June. Oh, go ahead.
So I think we're diving into a lot of great stuff here, but I think the first thing we really have to do is narrow down our scope about what we're even talking about, right? So typically when this kind of work is done, you're not doing surveys, focus groups, forums, interviews, and, right? Those are mountains of data, like almost insurmountable for the size of the team we have here, right? And then the number of stakeholder groups that we're talking about in a disaggregated way, they overlap. We don't necessarily need all those groups. So we really, the first step before setting anyone to go talk to anyone or ask anyone questions is that we need to decide what we're doing and who we're talking to, right? So whether we decide we're doing surveys, a forum, and then maybe one other thing, that's great. I think the more we attempt to collect data, the more we're gonna kind of shoot ourselves in the foot with this work. More data is great, it's just that we're not gonna, Superintendent Kimball said we wanna do this fast, we wanna do this quickly. So just in keeping that in mind, I think that's the number one thing we need to do is figure out what we're talking about, what the scope of our work really is here.
James, I agree with you. That's why to me, before we do anything, we need to know, this committee needs to kind of talk about what I was just talking about and say, what's the essential question? And I think this is the first time this group's been together. And I think it's gonna take you a couple of meetings, and I hate to say that, but it's gonna take a couple of meetings, and I think that's gonna be the summer to say, what's the essential question? And if we wanna stay to the November timeline, it's gonna have to be fast. I question myself whether that's actually a good idea right now, because I'd rather have it done thoroughly. The story of this mission was it was done really fast at the merger by a few people. And one of the things the board was brought into, I remember back to the board meetings, was we wanna make sure there's plenty of voices into the process.
So what I jotted down during this whole discussion, and I think this feeds into what you're saying, is if we took the month of June and maybe early July, which were already halfway through June, right? To do exactly what you're saying. So familiarization with the topic, brainstorming, and sort of focusing, right, on what it is we actually want to do. That leaves whatever's left in July and most of August for some detailed planning, which gets us to actually conducting events in September, which is where we want to be, and then getting that stakeholder feedback in October, and we can still stay on track for November. Kind of as a feels like a stretch, right? So, but we could potentially get there if we were to be successful in everything we do. Does that align with what you were thinking, Susan?
Yeah, like I think about what is the question that needs to be answered. It seems like if we're going to the different stakeholders with all the same information, we first need to figure out what is that information, or what is the question, so that we're asking the same question across the broad spectrum of stakeholders.
If you want a lot of stakeholders, this is where James, you and I have had these discussions before, so if you want a broad range of stakeholders, the question has to be really tight. And that's why Essex Westford, that's all they did, was just say, tell me 4 words that describe student success. And then they brought it to 60 people came to a forum and used that information with a facilitator to discuss, okay, what's this start to tell us, and that 60 represented many different stakeholders, and sometimes they 2 or 3 categories of stakeholders, but they came and spent that day crafting down that went off to a committee to go with.
And I think we will have overlap, like you were saying, we're gonna have overlap.
Right.
Just like when we were looking at the potential committee members, there was overlap, parents, educators, parents, business people, parents, not all parents, but board members. So yes,
Yes?
yes.
All right. All right, so I guess with that in mind, we will not attempt to try to assign anything to anyone. We will, I think, go back into whatever information we have available to us and whatever else.
I'll just go over a couple of things in here to look at. If I were gonna have you look at one thing for the next time we got together, it's this portrait of the graduate process, and we'll get you the PDF. Anything you see in here that's in blue is a link. There's a great resource page that's on page 10. Put my glasses back on. A lot of these are readings. There's some movies here on the bottom, and then I've got a couple other films, documentaries that are really good. For me, a lot of times it's like, okay, I need a documentary. I've been reading all day. So some of these are books, so they're really long, but I can get you some other pieces of education futurists. This process right here that I put out on this one pager basically takes this process and melts it down to a one pager. There are a few things that are different. And then there are some places where, so you can look at that. You can also look at to make that examples of goals and core values. I always like to know what's it look like at the end. So that's why I gave you this. Not that this is what, anything on here has to be what we decide. It's just, what's it look like? And you could cruise around. I mean, this is 15 minutes with me on the web. It wasn't anything profound. It's all
Are these the
copy
most
paste.
recently you're aware of?
This for Maple Run is. That's
Okay.
what's up here, and our core values aren't even on this wall.
They used to be.
They used to be. I don't know where they went.
But is this, so when you went to, did you know that Milton,
Oh,
Essex,
for Milton,
Orleans?
Essex, and Orleans. These are currently in existence today.
Okay, are they newer? Do you know, are they are these from 15 years ago or
No,
these from
no, these
the
are
last couple of years?
Essex Westford was done when they merged, which was right about the same time Maple Run merged.
I guess so, right?
Orleans Southwest is probably 3 or 4 years old, because that's a district I live near. And Milton, Amy Rex, I know just did this 2 years ago with the Milton School District.
Yeah, and I guess they would have to be recent if they're all merged districts.
Well, Milton isn't, but Orleans Southwest is, and so is Essex Westford. But I just tried to give some idea, and one of the things that I find a lot from my work, history of my work, is people confuse vision and mission. So I always think of vision as like, what do we want to see? Mission, how do we do our work? That's the way I kind of think of
we'll all be experts by then.
You got it.
So I think that gets us through, almost gets us to next steps. I'm gonna put someone on the spot at least. We should probably talk a little bit about the commitment to the committee. Like what do we feel like is a reasonable amount of time, to be spending outside of this room on this subject, right? I think that's really important, so I wanted to bring it up tonight. And I don't know exactly what it is. And I don't want to put out a number, because I think I know what it is for me, but I was hoping to get that feedback from everybody else as to what you're willing to put in, especially for time, for this. Put Ryer on the spot to start. What do you think is a reasonable commitment? Your own personal time?
Well, I spend a lot of time. Right. So, I can spend a lot of time. So, for me, I think, but if I'm looking at everyone in general, I would say like a week, maybe, like 2 hours a week.
2 hours a week?
Yeah. Okay. That's like a meeting, or like if it's not a meeting, then it's
We're talking about outside meetings, right? Like, so this
outside meetings, yeah.
This time,
I see what you're saying.
doing the stuff Phil's talking about, looking at the internet, finding the stuff,
Yeah, and I
reading
think
through this and understanding
sure.
it.
Then I think 2 hours a week.
The events that we're going to do, right? We all need to commit to that, and I think now's the time to really consider that and figure out what it is that you think you might be able to put in at the end. Ryer said a couple hours. Does that sound about right to everybody? A couple hours outside of meetings, outside of events?
And I would say no more than that for
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
No more than a couple hours a week with the meetings
Okay.
in addition.
Is that more or less what everyone's prepared to put in? Were people thinking more or less?
I personally want to do a little bit less. I'm taking grad school classes and teaching right now, so it's doing more than an hour would probably be too much for me.
Okay. All right.
So, I think in reality too, our summer work can be lighter with the readings and the whatnot, and that a lot of this work come fall when we start data collection and eventual analysis and discussion. I think we might have to kick in a little bit more time, right? I think in reality, knowing that this might be flexible in terms of like our workload, especially if we want it to be done in the next school year.
Yeah, what I kind of envision is from now to mid-July, there might be one other meeting. And then in August, I could see a couple of meetings to get everything set for September.
I think that's right.
And then between now and July, we have hey, let's look at these things and have a thought about it, because I think once you read through it, you can just search strategic planning or creating a vision and mission, do some reading on that. And what does that brainstorm for you? There's plenty of processes out there that are all about the same of that community piece.
So if we're going to go, 3-ish weeks
Yeah.
before our next meeting, I think, just with the conversation we have, what that means is, between 3 and 6 hours, of work on this topic between now and then. And I think that's enough, right? To, it's like one, not full work day, but, pretty substantial chunk of work to understand Portrait for Graduate, look back through here, some of the other stuff Bill's going to send out to the stakeholders, and, really try to engage with what we're trying to do, so that when we come back together at our next meeting, we can really make some progress towards focusing in, right, on those topics that we really want to dig into deeper, and we can start the planning process.
And I could see the next meeting being that one where we share something that we all view for like 10 minutes together. What does that spur for you for? And you might hopefully come in with a question already, but it might help you spur that. And I'll try to send some things out. Before we get to next meeting dates, Aaron, is it easier for you or I to send a link out to folks to that website, or is it better just to give a little overview right now and share it on the screen?
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
I can bring it up, whichever.
Why don't you just bring it up for a minute so everyone can see? Aaron's been today developing this site, and I don't think that's going across Zoom right now.
Oh,
Yeah. So it'll look like this. He'll send you a link to it. And you want to explain it a little bit, Aaron? I don't know if everyone can hear you with the mics.
So there's just a link here for meeting agendas and minutes. If you just click on that, we'll have a list of the meeting dates each time you meet. If you click on the meeting date, this will be the packet for that meeting. There's a placeholder here for the agenda, and then each item on the side here. And then going back to the home page, there's some resource documents as things come up for you guys to review. You can search in here. So I already have Portrait of a Graduate in here. And then there's another thing in here for essential work for Vermont School Board members.
And we threw that in there because there's a good description of community, working with your community. And you may have heard me use the words thick and thin engagement. And thin is where it's something brief, and thick is when we have those forms. But I can send out a little bit afterwards of, here's some pages in there, just kind of describe that work. And it's just a way of us all grounding on the same. It doesn't have to be the way we do it, it's just a way to get some common vocabulary. Thanks, Aaron.
That's it.
So moving to meeting dates?
Yeah.
Okay. Today's the 13th. We're gonna go at least a couple weeks. Unfortunately, that put us the week of the 4th.
We've got a board meeting that week.
And we do have a board meeting. So I guess I'd propose week of the 11th. Does that sound okay? And if we can narrow it down to a week, we do
I can do a quick Google poll. It'd either be the 11th, 12th. 11th or 12th would be 2 days. Good for me. The 13th is kind of iffy.
Yeah.
Probably could do the 11th. I can do a quick doodle poll with everybody and see what works.
Is that okay?
11, 12 are good for me.
11th, 12th work for you?
So we'll narrow down to the week of the 11th.
Yeah, we go to the 11th. Okay.
And then I guess it's either the 25th or the 1st. I think that we should probably really try to, after a few weeks, just after this organizational meeting, getting our feet under us in terms of familiarization. I'm thinking a meeting the week of the 11th and then again the week of the 25th, just to break inertia on everything and get things moving. Makes sense. I have limited availability on the week of the 25th, but it'll be later in the week.
I'll be out of town the week of the 25th, but I'm happy to catch up on things for the meeting afterwards if that's cool.
Yeah, and that may just happen sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, are you saying June 25th?
Nope.
July.
July.
Oh, okay, July, okay.
Week of July 11th and week of July 25th.
July 11th, July 11th, okay.
And then we could either just keep going every other week, or we could back off a little bit and go to the 15th and the 29th.
So we're gonna have a board meeting on the week of the 15th.
Oh yeah, we should.
Well, that's 17th, so I would say either the week of the 8th or the week of the 22nd.
My thought is if we did it the week of the 8th and we had made really good progress, then we might be able to skip some later in the month. Does that
Yeah, I
sound-
think that sounds good.
sound reasonable?
So what I'll do is I'll
Just
work,
to
yeah.
clarify too, so the week of July 11th and the week of August 8th.
Yeah.
Both weeks land on, their BEI committees are on that week as well. And I
Oh,
know
when do you-
Ryder has a commitment,
Yeah.
my wife has a commitment, so I wouldn't
Right.
be.
Yeah, you
at
got
that
kids.
So,
What is there?
Well, it's always the second Tuesday, but the 9th anyways is gonna be election day.
Well, they don't always have to be a Monday, but we can. Is it the whole week that you have to be?
oh, no, it's just, I'm saying, both of those weeks, Tuesday is out of commission.
Okay.
Okay,
Probably
that's
for
good enough.
myself,
Okay,
and I know Ryder's on the
Yeah.
BEI committee, so.
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, maybe we do this as the board also, where we all sit and we pick a week and then we actually do the Google poll and it's not good. So it could very well be the case. So that gives us 3 weeks out
Miss it.
tentatively. I don't think it makes sense to schedule up further than that.
No, I think on the 8th, we can do a progress, that, as you said, milestone, that we were thinking we're getting close to already.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can get those scheduled over the next week or two, so that we confirm what those dates.
And I'll try to, Grant, I'll work with you, but we can try to put out just an email summarizing this after some of the documents to look at.
Yep.
For the 11th.
Now, we're under open meeting.
Yep.
All here.
Everything's
Okay,
open meeting law.
we should probably explain that, right? Do you mind, because I'm sure you can do that. Sorry.
So any committee or subcommittee of the board is open meeting law. So it's open to, it's always publicly warned. Public's more than welcome to come and see our meeting, provide comment. And that's part of how we're operating. If anyone wants to see what we're doing, it's all up there anyway. So it's not trying to want this, especially this process. Transparency is really key to making it successful. So let's do that. And so we have to make sure we warn it at least 48 hours in advance, and that we have minutes 5 days afterwards. And then as this committee, the board, which is a little weird of being a subcommittee versus the board, and I don't think the board would mind it, but the board's the one that actually approves these minutes. But this committee can do that too if you want to review them and go over them and record of what goes on. As you can see, Northwest Access is here. One of the things Aaron asked me last week, and I thought we're trying to be really transparent about what this committee's doing, so let's make sure we have Northwest Access here to be able to show that. And if for you, for some reason, we always, the board has said to keep Zoom moving through all our meetings. So we always have a Zoom link for the public, but if for yourself, you can see we've got 3 members coming in tonight through Zoom. It usually helps Aaron and I just know, so we're programming. You'll see a lot more from Aaron because, as the board members will say, he really runs the place. I just kind of follow what he says. So he keeps us organized. That's a great job of it.
So, I guess 2 things. So minutes, does anyone care if we do our own minutes? Any preference there? Seeing nothing, I propose that we don't worry about our own minutes now.
Yeah.
We'll let the board do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, because of open meeting law, there is some rules around meeting in small groups.
Oh yes, sorry, I didn't go over that. So if we all showed up and Ryer's having a get together at his house and we're all there, it doesn't necessarily count as a meeting. But if we were at Ryer's house and we started talking about the work of this, then we're fracturing open meeting law. So it doesn't mean that Susan and Ryer and Katie, the 3 of them could have, because they're not quorum of the board, they can have a discussion. But it's once you get to that quorum and there's 5, so it's 6.
Just be aware.
Just be aware.
You know,
Yeah.
if you ever wound up in a situation where you're out of quorum, you will be discussing this stuff. And then just in general, when we're, especially when we're on camera, but when it's open to the public, we avoid mentioning people by name. Anytime we don't want anyone to be identifiable as part of this. I think that's generally true. Yes.
Well, we're not. No, in an open meeting, we attribute the comments to the people that said them.
Yes, you can do that.
Yeah. But we try not to. We try not to say.
Anything about the community.
Anything
About the community, especially
So and so teacher was bad.
Yeah, right.
The teachers, right.
I was losing my words.
So just some things to keep in mind.
Something I never asked.
You probably should have led with that, some sort of do that for you. Anything else for tonight? No. All right. We have no executive session, and so since we are through our agenda, we will adjourn at 6:58.
Thanks, everybody. It's really exciting.
Thank you.